line and winds are dying. How long I will be here, I do not know. One thing I'm sure of, winds will blow.
Hi everybody! Thanks for stopping by to check out the latest from Sailing Emerald Steel. In this video we're going to be talking about the dreaded electrolysis. And as usual, before we get started, we'd like to thank all of you for taking the time to leave a comment or a thumb up, or hopefully both. We really appreciate it, so thank you so much. The steel boat and has a very, very bad case of electrolysis, which I will show you. I will show you how it looks. Right here. Look at that. That's what can happen to a steel boat if you don't take care of it. Yeah, that's sad.
When the surveyor was here, he wasn't pounding hard.
Really?
He'd give it a tap.
Oh.
Right through.
Because electrolysis is an important part of a maintenance for a boat owner, mainly for one who owns a steel boat or aluminum, but it's also for any type of material including fiberglass. So I decided I will share with you our experience, because what we found out throughout all these years, if you try to talk to an electrician in a boatyard, everyone gives you a different opinion, and it is very, very hard to really find an answer. Even reading a lot of books, you find out that very, very few people actually agree on everything. Like for example here, we have a book by Nigel Calder, and that's very highly recommended for every sailor. But even he, when it comes down to electrolysis, he in the question of bonding a hull, he will tell you then two different ways. One is the bonding and one is leaf isolated. But he'll really pretty much tell you that doing either way is like jumping from a frying pan into the fire. So you see, even an expert like that doesn't give you really answer. And then also when it comes down to, for example, grounding on your SSB radio, again he tells you go and contact expert. So again he doesn't give you the answers. So by finding out throughout the years that no one really give you a good answers, you have to really make a decision on your own. We decide to look into it, do a little studying, and I will share with you what we learned. So here pretty much I will try to explain about the electrolysis. There are two types of electrolysis. One is from a two dissimilar metal, and the second one is straight current, which can be as much as voltage of your batteries, which is much more dangerous because of electrolysis are really accelerated. So here I will show you example. If you take a mild steel and a stainless steel bolt, if you submerge it into a electrolyte, which is a salt water, and you put a voltmeter on it, as long as those two, the steel and the bolt is not connected, they're totally separated, you will get a voltage. As you can see on my voltmeter, it's over 200 millivolts. Now when I connect those two things together on the water, as you can see now, the voltage is going to drop pretty much to nothing. So what I show you by this experiment, it's very simple. As long as the two dissimilar metals are in an electrolyte, which is salt water, and they are apart, there is a voltage between them, but nothing's happening because they are isolated. But soon as they are tied together, which would be in the case of a steel boat, or in the case of a fiberglass boat, which is bonded, then naturally, instead of showing voltage, the current would go from a higher, more noble metal into a less noble metal, and by that process, the less noble metal will be getting heat up. So that is pretty much the way electrolysis works. So now you have a question, ask yourself what is better, to have a bonded or unbonded. The bonding means then you run electrical wire between different metal parts, like your through-hole fittings, your shaft, your rudder stock, and so forth. If you bond it, you run a bonding wire between them. You install a less noble metal, which is a zinc. You put that zinc into a circuit, so become a part of a bonding system. And now electrolysis, instead of eating your metal, will be eating the zinc first, because the zinc is the least noble metal. Now you check your zinc, say, every 6 months, and if you see your zinc to be eat up about halfway or so, you just replace the zinc, and that's become a sacrificial to protect your metal. So naturally, in a steel boat, all electrical fittings are bonded automatically by simply being welded to a steel hole. But to complete a bonding circuit, you still have to run a cable from a point in a boat, preferably close to your neutral or minus strip. So from there you run a cable to attach between your steel hole and your neutral strip. Now, the only thing what we've done really different, which I never heard from anybody else to do, is that we took that cable, we cut it, and we install a 100 amp diode. So this way, if the hole should get any stray current, it can come via bonding cable through the diode into neutral strip. But reverse from a neutral strip, it cannot go back to the hole. Like in the case, say for example, if your battery cable should deteriorate and suddenly your neutral bar become hot via your appliances, via your electric motors, your lights and so forth. So this is a kind of extra protection. And here is my bonding wire, which is bolted to the hole, and right here is my 100 amp diode, which is installed, so then if there is any kind of a stray current, it will be passing through the diode into my grounding strip, but from the grounding strip no current can pass back to the hole, because the blocking diode would prevent it. If you have it isolated, it means then they are free, not electrically connected. Now, if you leave your boat unbonded, then the problem is that when you have any kind of stray current, you will be eating up your metal, and there will be no way for anything to protect it. If you don't have your electrical equipment, lights and so forth properly wired, that means your connections are not properly wired, and your wire might be stripped someplace. The current would always try to find a path of least resistance to get back to its sources, in this case the batteries. So what can happen is that, say if your cable laying in a bilge and the insulation is stripped, and suddenly the current gets on a wet insulation, and from insulation gets to a CCAG, from a CCAG goes out into salt water, which is electrolyte, and from there travel into your shaft, a propeller, and there via transmission into your engine, back to your battery. So that pretty much just completes the circuit. But now, one thing it's important to know is this thing here, that in this case, when you have electrolysis because of a stray current, is not the least noble metal which would be eaten, but the metal which introduced the electric into the water. And as I go for a bonding, once you put a bonding with a zinc, they would protect you from electrolysis of two dissimilar metals. But if you have a problem with a stray current, first thing you will notice, your battery is getting discharged. So once you see your battery discharged and you didn't leave anything accidentally on, remember to check for electrolysis, because battery can get discharged very fast. You have to remember that when you have electrolysis because of dissimilar metals, your zinc will go very slowly because the voltage potentials are very low. But if you have a stray current, you will know by the fact that your zincs will go very, very fast, because instead of say 0.2 or 0.3 volts difference, you will have suddenly 12 or 13 volts from your battery. So pretty much you can tell the difference between those two types of electrolysis. If you find a pitting and you run your finger over the hole, you will get a kind of a greasy black stain, which is very much a sign of electrolysis. Also, you gotta check your zincs on your shaft very often, because if you should lose a zinc on your shaft, again, your shaft is stainless steel in most cases, and your propeller is bronze. And although they are not very far electrically on a galvanic scale, but still enough, then propeller start getting eaten up. Another thing is about which is very much misunderstood is when people say that if you go to a marina, you will have an electrolysis problem because of other boats. This is not so. The only way you can get electrolysis in a marina is if you have an electrical cord connected to the receptacle out on the dock, and then say if somebody dropped the extension cord into a water, then a straight current will go into your boat and via ground wire through extension cord back to its source. So the idea is that a straight current always find a path of the least resistance, go to back to a source, which can be a battery or can be 110 volts on the shore. So if you're in a marina and you are not attached to any extension cord or anything, then you will have no problem with electrolysis whatsoever. But if you have an extension cord and you don't have what they call an isolating transformer, which actually isolates the ground for your boat from the ground in the shore, then you will develop a big problem, and actually you can have a problem of electrolysis as big as the one shown in a little clip in the beginning of that video. And here I'd like to explain to you a grounding or your SSB/ham radio, because every time you use a SSB radio or your ham radio, you're actually pumping electric into your grounding plate. So in the case of steel boat, it's your steel hull. In the case of fiberglass boat, it's your grounding plate. So to prevent that, I actually found out a way to do it by using blocking capacitors. And here in the little clip, I show you how I did it. So what happened is, then your grounding goes through, but your DC current is blocked. It will be a nice ground strip installed with blocking capacitors for a grounding on my SSB radio. What they do, they stop DC current going through, so prevents electrolysis on the steel boats.
Let me show that how it looks. Okay.
The way it's done, you get a piece of plexiglass, you drill 4 holes, so you screw the 2 separate halves into it, and you put a capacitors in between it.
And then you solder them?
Then you solder them to make a good connection, and this way ground for SSB radio go through, but DC current is blocked. And finally here we show you that our boat, after 30 plus years, when we sandblasted, she was really a very nice shape. The metal was a good order, not like our neighbor in the boatyard. So we are very satisfied, and because of it we believe that our way of doing things, at least for us, worked out really well.
So Jules is putting on the first coat of primer. We have to get it on today, the same day they did the sandblasting, so no rust starts to form. Okay guys, that's it for now. I hope you found the video helpful. We try our best to share with you what we've learned over the years. And before we leave, I'd like to once again thank all of our new and old Patreons and people that support our channel through PayPal. Thank you so much. We really appreciate it. See you guys next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.